ओम त्यागेश्वरम रामकृष्णम शारदाम मातृरूपिणीम विवेकानंदमाचार्यम नत्वा वक्ष्यामि शुद्धे. In our last class we discussed a couple of sutras which describe about the Mukhya Bhaktas, and this subject is, this few sutras, following ones, will be the glory of Mukhya Bhakta, their glory and in turn the glory of Bhakti. So these Mukhya Bhaktas are those who have attained to Mukhya Bhakti. Its penultimate stage, so to say, in this path of devotion. With very little effort, that Mukhya Bhakti will mature into Parabhakti. That is the state. So it's a very high state in this path of devotion, in spiritual life. And Narada first defines who these Mukhya Bhaktas are in just one word. He says, Ekantinaha. Mukhya Bhaktas are bhaktas who are ekantins, single-minded, you can say, or they have only one goal. And in our last class we saw they have no priorities. They have only one priority, that is God. They have no list. They have only one priority, and that is God. They are called ekantins. We have many priorities in life and all that, but they have only one priority, that is ekanta, God. They want to meet God in ekanta, in solitude. And the solitary place that these bhaktas choose to meet their beloved, to meet their God, is their own heart. In their heart, there is none other than the devotee and God. So it is a solitary place, ekanta. Ekanta also means solitary place. So ekanta is their own heart. There they meet their beloved, their Lord. No kamana, vasana, dvesha, raga, nothing is there. It's a pure heart, a meeting place for devotee and God. They are also called ekanta because they have firm faith that God alone is the ruler, is the maintainer, creator of this universe. Whatever is happening by the will of God. They are also called ekantins because they say that God alone belongs to me. The whole world is there. They are surrounded by people, but in the heart of heart they know, like that story of Sri Ramakrishna, the maid servant. They know that God alone is my own. Really, truly, God alone is my own. They are called ekanta bhaktas. Ekanta also means ananya, non-different, so to say. And we saw the Bhagavad Gita verse, Paryupasate, Nityabhayukta. So Paryupasate is in all places. They don't have any specific place to worship God like we have. For them the whole world is a temple. They worship God in all places, Nityabhayukta, at all times. So there is no restriction of time and place for them to worship God. Their love of God, their service of God continues irrespective of place and time. God is the only objective of their life, of their heart. They don't want anything from God. They want God alone. So these devotees in the world also we see, the lover wants to see the world like the beloved sees, with the eyes of the beloved. These people are also like that. Whatever the Lord likes, these people like. Whatever the Lord hates, these people hate. Whatever the Lord doesn't approve of, these people do not engage in such activities. Their likes and dislikes, even their will, becomes one with the will of God. God's will, so to say, flows through these devotees, these great devotees, Mukhya Bhaktas. They have become one with God. They are Ananya, they are Ekanta. They see the world as a God sees the world. So when we interact with the world, we have some equation and we are always part of that equation. Whenever we interact with the world in whatever, either mentally or physically, we are always part of the equation. There is something for us in that interaction with the world. But so is not the case with these bhaktas. For them it is God and God alone. It is God's world. It is God Himself who is appearing as this world. They are totally out of the equation. They don't interact in the world with any self-interest. They see the world as God sees the world. So they are ekantin. Bhakta ekantino mukhyaha. So in one word he has summed up, so to say, so many ideas. These devotees of God, their glory, he tells how they live. Kantavaradho romancha ashubhi parasparam lapamanaha pavayanti kulani prithvim. When they meet their equal, a person who is also Mukhya Bhakta, they will start talking of God. And as they talk of their beloved, whom they love with their heart, mind, body and soul, certain signs manifest in them. Their voice chokes, tears flow down their eyes, their hairs of their body stand on end. So all these signs are seen. The signs of devotion, of that supreme emotion. And as you said, these signs are not to be practiced. These are not mandatory. Some may not have these signs at all. So these signs, for a sadhaka, these signs are not to be practiced. They are just natural expressions of that love of God. We don't have to practice these signs. We don't have to forcefully start shedding tears as we pray to God. That is not what is meant. Those are natural things. And seeing these in someone is also not a sure shot indication that that person is a great devotee. No. It is the life which is the criteria to decide about the devotion of a person, that person's detachment for the world. Mainly that. The purity of that character, that is the sign, not these external manifestations. One can practice these and develop these, fool himself and the world. That's why we have to be careful. These are not infallible. These are expressions which naturally happen in many devotees, but these are not infallible. And it's not that they only do this, talking about God. They also serve the Lord. That is a great mission of their life. They see the world suffering because it has forgotten God. The humanity, when they see humanity having forgotten God, the source of all bliss, their heart melts and they serve the devotees, they serve the humanity in a spirit of service of God. So that is also another way they spend their time. They spend their time talking about God to their equals and also talking about God to the humans, to us who are not their equals, but out of compassion for us, they tell us. Narada himself is writing this work for us who are not his equals, but in order to help us, to serve us, he is doing it, and that's what all the great devotees do. They talk about God with their equals and they serve humanity out of compassion. And then it says, Pavayanti Kulani Prithvim Cha, by their advent, their whole Kula and the whole Prithvi is blessed. This idea will be again explained later. So that is the description of the bhaktas. And the glory of these bhaktas will be told in next few sutras. It says, Tirthi kurvanti tirthani, sukarmi kurvanti karmani, satchastri kurvanti shastrani. So these devotees of God, so to say, those who have attained the last rung of evolution, salt of the earth, so to say, what do? They make holy places more holy, or they make holy places. they impart sense of duty or sacredness to the actions. Sukarmi kurvanti karmani. And Sat Shastri kurvanti shastrani. They authenticate the scriptures. That is what they do. They impart holiness in the tirthas or make tirthas. They make actions sacred, karma sacred, and they authenticate the scriptures. That's what they do. So this word tirtha, it has a very wide connotation. Any object, any person, any even quality that helps us cross over this samsara is a tirtha. Tirtha is that which helps us cross over this samsara, this bandha, which helps us go towards God. That is a tirtha. Anything that helps us, guides us, inspires us, gives us strength to move towards God is a tirtha. And in this light, holy men are tirthas, holy places are tirthas, even divine qualities like humility, service, detachment, these qualities are also tirthas. So it's a wide range objects and entities that can come under this concept of tirtha. But here in this context, we are talking of holy places. We say tirtha yatra, so places of pilgrimage. That's what is being talked here in this context. If we see the popular tirthas that are in vogue now, we find them either God manifested there, Vrindavan, Ayodhya or whatever. God manifested, God lived there, Leela, Bhagavad Leela, all that happened there. All some great devotee performed austerities and received the blessings of God, like Dakshineshwar or Pandharpura or whatever. So these places, there are two types of these tirthas are there. Either those where God manifested or where devotees made God appear and bless them. Other way, but in most of the cases, and even where God manifested, all these tirthas are in some way or other associated with ideas of holiness, ideas of spiritual struggles, ideas of God's grace. In some way or other, these are manifest, these are associated. And that's how they purify us when we go there. It is said that before we go to a tirtha, we should read Tirtha Mahatmya. The spiritual glory of that tirtha we should read. How God manifested there, the Leela of God, or how God blessed the devotee, what kind of austerities the devotees performed there. All this Mahatmya we should read. And then we should go there with reverence in a spirit of a spiritual seeker, not as a tourist. As a tourist, if we go to a Tirtha Kshetra, we will not be benefited. If we go there, we should go there with full knowledge of the spiritual glory of that place, of how the Lord unfolded, how the divine Leela unfolded there, or how devotees prayed to God and God blessed them. All these we should have studied and then go there with reverence and attitude of a spiritual seeker. When we go there, all these thoughts will come to our mind. We will recall all that we have studied, and those associations, those will help us spiritually. That is how these holy places and pilgrimage to holy places helps us. But it will only help us if we go there with this knowledge of its spiritual glory in a spirit of a devotee, not as a tourist, in a spirit of a devotee. With sincerity, with devotion, we go there and we relive there all those incidents. And then those will infuse us with spiritual strength. They will, so to say, recharge us and give us more enthusiasm to pursue our spiritual practice when we come away from there. These tirthas are like recharging centers, so to say, for spiritual aspirants. We can go there and recharge ourselves. But it can happen only when we go with the spirit, with the right spirit and right knowledge, both. So that is how these places of pilgrimage help us. These devotees and their involvement in these tirthas is, so to say, is of two, three types. Involvement of these Mukhya Bhaktas in these places of pilgrimage. Sometimes we see they discover these places of pilgrimage. It is said that Vrindavan was discovered by disciples of Sri Chaitanya. He blessed them and sent them, and they discovered the Vrindavan. So these devotees, with their spiritual intuition, they can discover where Lord played, where the Leela happened. They can discover. Sri Ramakrishna could discover holy places where people couldn't see, but he could discover. It is said that Shankaracharya brought out the statue which is now established in Badri from a lake, installed it and turned it into a tirtha. So they actually make tirthas or discover tirthas. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. They make or discover tirthas. Secondly, as we said earlier, they perform intense austerities. And the Lord manifests, and that becomes a tirtha. Dakshineshwar is today tirtha because of the superhuman austerities of Sri Ramakrishna. Pandharpura is a tirtha because of Pandalika's devotion. So these devotees, they make a tirtha, they make the Lord appear out of their devotion, and they make a tirtha. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. They make a tirtha. And third is, by going there, by going in the existing tirthas, they infuse spirituality into it. That is the reason why Sri Ramakrishna went to all holy places. For him, what was the need to go to Banaras and Vrindavan and all these places? Holy Mother goes to Vrindavan, performs austerities. What was the need for her? It is to impart holiness in these tirthas. So by their presence, these tirthas become more holy. Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. So like that, in more than one ways, these devotees, they turn these holy places more holy. Either they discover or they make it by their austerities. And they make them more holy by going there and performing austerities there and infusing spirituality into these tirthas. So tirthi kurvanti tirthani. Then it says sukarmi kurvanti karmani. Whatever actions these devotees of God perform, those become sukarmas, those become holy actions. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he, so to say, gave a lot of emphasis on chanting the name of the Lord, singing the glories of the Lord. And today it has become one of the chief spiritual disciplines. Everywhere we find bhajans being sung. He started it. Sukarmi kurvanti karmani. That karma of singing, he turned it into a sacred action. In the recent times, Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, by their actions, Sri Ramakrishna goes to a place, sees poor people and says, you feed them. I won't go to pilgrimage, you feed them. That act of service, he turned into a spiritual practice. And today, not only Ramakrishna Mission, so many institutions, so many religious institutions, they are engaging into service. Service, seva of God in man is being accepted as a spiritual path. Sri Ramakrishna started it, Swami Vivekananda started it. So, sukarmi kurvanti karmani, by their actions, they convert actions, ordinary actions, into spiritual actions. They give that spiritual direction to actions. That is sukarmi kurvanti karmani. And sat shastri kurvanti shastrani. Shastras, as we understand them, are words in some books. Unless these great men and women, they practice what is there in the scriptures. They realize the fruits mentioned in those scriptures and then tell us that yes, this is authentic. Unless they do that, the scriptures will be meaningless to us. Scriptures would have been lost. Upanishads would have been lost. If not for innumerable people, men and women, who followed these, who realized what is mentioned in the Upanishads and told us that yes, these are authentic. So they give authenticity to the scriptures by practicing and realizing what is mentioned in the scriptures and then telling us that yes, this is authentic. So Sat Shastri Kurvanti Shastrani. They give authenticity to the scriptures. Without these great men and women, scriptures would have been lost, or they would have just remained cock and bull stories or something that has nothing to do with our life. But it is these men and women who live a life according to the scriptures, realize the results mentioned in the scriptures and inform us. Sat Shastri Kurvanti Shastrani. And they are able to do all this. Why? How? The next sutra says, Tanmayaha. Tanmaya. They are full of God. Sri Ramakrishna says, I don't know anything other than God. So such are these great souls, bhaktas, mukhya bhaktas. They know nothing but God. And God is the most purifying agent, so to say. Most pure being in the world is God. And these bhaktas are full of God. Within, without, they know nothing but God. And when such people go to a place that becomes holy, they do something that becomes holy. And that is how Sukarmi Kurvanti Karmani, Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthani, because they are full of God. They through and through, so to say. They have nothing but God. Wherever they see God. Whatever they hear God. It's nothing but God for them. So this is one or two sutras. The third sutra, this subject is going to go on. The glory of these bhaktas. The next sutra is Modante Pitaraha Nrityanti Devataha Sanatha Chayam Bhur Bhavati. The sutra says the Pitrus, that is the ancestors of these great devotees, they rejoice. The ancestors rejoice. Gods, that is not the supreme God, but the demigods, like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, all these, those who are in charge of certain functions of creation and maintenance, they rejoice. The gods rejoice. And the earth gets a savior. Sanatha Bhur Bhavati. The earth gets a savior, so to say. Again, the reason will be same. Because Tanmaya. See, Pitrus are our ancestors, you see. And it is said that when a person develops this devotion, intense devotion for God, not only he or she is purified, but the whole kula is purified. Kulam pavitram. So naturally, the ancestors will be happy. That, see, in the world we see, in a family, if somebody becomes great in a worldly sense, becomes a doctor or an IAS officer, the whole family rejoices. From our kula, somebody from our family, somebody has become a great man or woman. How much happiness the Pitrus and the family will have when a person from that family attains to the highest possible ideal of human life, highest possible achievement of human life. That is this devotion, this supreme devotion. It is but natural for these Pitrus to be happy. Like that, Devatas also will be happy and all that. We'll see later. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.